One, going live.
Okay, welcome everybody. I should be live right about now. So we are going to do phase one of our test. And so basically we're going to go through some transactions there. We've got Russell with a node, and we've got Brendan with a node. We're going to basically demonstrate that we're using pretty normal or pretty normal and basic hardware that we can do a live test with it there and get over 1 million transactions a second. That's going to be phase one. There is a link in the description on YouTube that you can click on, and anybody on a laptop or PC can download that, and they will be able to see all of the blocks that are going to be running throughout this demonstration. So all you have to do is go to the description, click on the link, download it, and you will be able to see the blockchain running live. So yeah, phase one we're going to run, and then this is going to take us on to phase two, which is going to be at the end of the month. We're going to be running more sophisticated hardware. We're going to have hopefully we'll have an auditing company there to observe the whole process there. But for tonight there, we're just going to do a very basic run on low level hardware so that we can demonstrate what we can do. So that being said there, we've got Russell and Brendan. Are you folks, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming through clear on my side.
Loud and clear, Trevor.
All right, brilliant there. So we are going to run transactions. We're going to start off at 10,000 transactions right up to 6 million transactions. And we're going to push that through the blockchain and then record how many seconds that it will take in order to push through and record those transactions. So yeah, from 10,000, 50, 100,000 and so on there. So the first line is going to be Russell is going to test on his computer the first transaction of 10,000 events per second. And we're viewing your screen, Russell, there. So whenever you're ready, you can put in 10,000 transactions there, and then we'll test how many seconds it will take.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Trevor. And just to give everybody a little bit of a run through, this is the interface we use to test our blockchain with regards to speed and with regards to the information that is recording. So it's a basic low level interface, but just to give you a rundown, we've got the transaction count here that enables us to push however many transactions through that we need. We are using a test form of TET. We're calling it TET1. It's a duplicate of the Tectum token, and it's recording information on the blockchain exactly the same way that you would have your hashes recorded on the Tectum blockchain when you send TET from one wallet to another. We then have a check blocks function. That means if we write 10,000 transactions, which we're going to do shortly, we can check any of those blocks. And throughout this test, we will be demonstrating the check of those blocks so you can see that the blockchain is indeed writing one block per transaction and all the details that are required to be in that block are being recorded. So we are going to run the test with the first 10,000 transactions. And when we run it, essentially this interface will send 10,000 transactions to the consensus mechanism. As Trevor highlighted, I'm running a node on my computer. It's very normal consumer level hardware. So this is the type of computer that most people would find in their office, and they're able to run the node at the same speed. So these aren't optimal speeds. These are average user level speeds. And Brendan also is in a different location running the node on his computer. So as we push these transactions through, the consensus mechanism will run and we'll see how quickly it's running at. This interface shows us how many seconds it took to write that batch of transactions. I will then do a quick calculation on my side and we'll be able to work out the average TPS that it's running at. And as we go on, the TPS should increase as we get to those higher numbers. So I will run this 10,000 transactions now. And as you can see, that was pretty fast. Those 10,000 transactions ran at 0.02 seconds. So that's running at 500,000 transactions per second as we've started, and that's at 10,000 transactions being pushed through. So just to demonstrate that speed, if we were to go to the 100th block, and I hit show block on the interface, you can see that transaction 100 has the hash there that was completely written. The local time was this date at 09:07:42, and the transaction amount that we ran through there was 5,063 TET. That's TET1, a duplication of TET. So you can run that for any of the blocks. If you've loaded the interface on your side, you can check any of those blocks to see the blockchain was able to write 10,000 transactions and 10,000 blocks, full consensus met within 0.02 seconds. So I'll hand it over to Brendan. Brendan, if you'd like to share your screen, and Brendan is going to run a transaction for 50,000 transactions.
Awesome. Thanks, Russell. Happy to be involved in just showing the community a glimpse of what we can do with some basic hardware here. So you guys can see my screen now?
Yeah, that's coming through.
Perfect. So we're going to run 50,000 on this one. I haven't got my initiate transaction button. Where's that going?
Yeah, Brendan, and just restart your application.
Restart. Here we go. There we go, 0.1092 of a second for 50,000 transactions.
Great, so that's running at a very similar speed at 500,000 transactions per second on very basic hardware. So I will take over the sharing of the screen. And now we're going to run it for 100,000 transactions per second. So that's just adding a 0 to what we've got already. And we'll also do a block check on this one. So I'll initiate that now. And just to note, you can see that the transactions were also picked up by my node at a slightly quicker speed. So I received consensus more quickly on my node than Brendan did on his for that last push of 50,000 transactions. So I'll now execute 100,000 transactions. And you can see there are 100,000 transactions executed, and that's slightly higher at just over 500,000 transactions per second. Now let's do a random check on one of those blocks. So we're now up to 160,000 transactions written and 160 blocks. So if I check 149,000 block, to see what data that pulls through. That shows us that the 149,000th block was written with a transaction of 172 test TET, and that was written a short while ago.
All right, we're going to now jump to 250,000 transactions, so 250,000. Initiate. And then on my side there, that's showing 0.4375 of a second. What do you see on your side, Russell?
Yeah, but I've got 0.4375 as well. And the speed of that then has now moved up to 0.58 or 580,000 transactions per second. So as we start pushing more transactions through, the consensus mechanism adapts on the basis of the rating or proof of utility, and we start pushing through faster transactions. So we're currently running at 580,000 transactions per second. I'll take over the share screen to push through 500,000 transactions. So moving the execution number to 500,000 transactions per second. And I'll initiate those. And we can see that that has come back at 0.7 of a second. So we're now running at 714,000 transactions per second. And let's do a random check on that. So we'll check the 719,000 block to see what information was written to the blockchain. And we can see there 668 TET was transferred. We've got the hash there, and the hash can be pulled up to draw in the sender and recipient details. So all this information is being written directly. It has run through the proof of utility consensus mechanism and currently running at 714,000 transactions per second. So Brendan, I'll hand it over to you to run the 1 million transactions to see how quickly that can be pushed through.
All right, I'm jumping straight to the million now, am I?
Yeah, let's jump to the million.
Initiate transaction. We've got 1.49 on that one.
So that's come through slightly slower. Let me see if I can also run it on my side on the node that I'm running. That's come through as a similar speed on my side. So that's pulling through at around 600. Sorry, say that again, Brendan.
I'm only connected to Wi-Fi internet. I haven't got an Ethernet cable plugged in.
Yeah, so that's coming through slightly slower, but we'll continue running through these transactions. And the next one we're going to write is 1.5 million transactions, and we'll see how that runs through the consensus mechanism. So 1.5 million transactions per second have now come through at approximately 937,000 transactions per second. So we're heading towards that million as the consensus and rating protocol is warming up. We are recording at approximately 937,000 transactions per second. We'll do another random check on the block numbers to make sure that they're all registering. So we're going to have a check on 1.45 million block, and we'll see what data was recorded on the ledger. So the 1.45 millionth block, the information that was recorded was a transaction of 8,685 TET, and the date and the hash was all successfully recorded. I'll hand it over to you then, Brendan, for the next transaction set.
All right, great. So we'll run this one at 2 million transactions.
Yeah.
All that push through there at 2.3 seconds. You might get it faster on your side.
I've got it at 2.3 as well. So that means it's running again at about 900,000 transactions per second. So then I'll move up on my side to the 2.5 million transactions, and we'll see how quickly the consensus mechanism will record that. So that ran 2.5 million transactions per second, and it ran it at 2.3 seconds. So that means for the first time we've got over 1 million transactions per second, and that's approximately 1,086,000 transactions per second with full consensus. So that's brilliant to see, moving over past that 1 million mark. And again, just to remind everybody, this is using very basic hardware. We wanted to demonstrate that this is the type of hardware that could be used with a normal computer. Brendan's actually on his personal laptop. I'm using a very basic tower system, and we're already running at over 1 million transactions per second. So let's do a test on that block to see where we came back at with regards to the block recordings. We'll go for the 1.46 millionth block. And we can see there that accurately recorded was a transaction of 784 TET, and the hash was also recorded. I'll hand it over to you, Brendan, for the next test.
Perfect. Nice to see that we're over that million mark there. All right, let's run 3 million. Let's run. $3 million at 2. Oh, it's come through now at 3 seconds.
Yep, so then again, running at about 1 million transactions per second when you push through those 3 million. So we're going to run all the way up to pushing through 6 million transactions to see what speed we can get at. But on my side, I will now push through a transaction for 4 million different movements of TET. So this is 4 million different transactions of TET being recorded on the Tectum blockchain, all in one push with full consensus running through proof of utility. I'll initiate that 4 million transactions. So we can see there that the 4 million transactions ran at 3.3 seconds. So we're now running at 1.2 million transactions per second. So this is getting very close to our previous top run of 1.3 million transactions per second. And we're using very basic consumer-like hardware. Once again, we'll do a check on exactly how that has been recorded in the ledger. And we'll pull up the 2,460,000th block to see what information was recorded. So for that transaction, the algorithm pushed through 443 TET to a wallet with the hash recorded and the timestamp accurately recorded as well. So that's us running at 1.2 million transactions per second with full consensus. I'll hand it over to you, Brendan.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to run through 5 million transactions on this push. Initiate those here. Nice speed there. A little slower at 5.1.
Yeah, so that's come through at just under 1 million transactions per second. So we've moved from 1.2 million to just under 1 million transactions per second. And we now have our final push. This will be pushing 6 million transactions through the blockchain with full consensus running through proof of utility. And we'll see what speed that is done at. So that was a very good speed there. That was 6 million transactions per second, pushed through at 0.46 seconds, and that hits exactly 1.3 million transactions per second. So that's brilliant to see. Even with very basic hardware, we were able to push through at that 1.3 million transactions per second, meaning anybody without buying a very expensive rig can run a Tectum node and hit that 1.3 million transactions per second that we've spoken of on numerous occasions. And let's do a random spot test to see how the 3.46 millionth transaction was recorded on the blockchain out of that set. As you can see, that transaction was for 34 TET, the hash was accurately recorded and the timestamp was accurately recorded. So just as a brief synopsis, the transaction speed started off at about 500,000 transactions per second. It pushed up to about 0.9 million transactions per second. And then we got to that 1.2 and now 1.3 million transactions per second using nodes in different locations, each node recording the transactions from the other node with full consensus hits and using very basic hardware. So fantastic result. Great to see.
Yeah, exciting to see it live in action. It'll be nice to see what we can do with, solid internet connections and more powerful hardware in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, great work, folks. We're really well done there. I think that's really going to put things in perspective there of what we can do. With smaller, starting off at 10,000 there, we'll get ramped up once we get to around the 3 million transactions mark. That's whenever the consensus really gets into full swing and we hit that magic mark, that magic 1.3 million transactions per second there. So well done on that. And yeah, it's going to it's going to be very interesting there once we ramp things up for phase 2. Again, phase 2 is going to be where we get more sophisticated hardware. We run different nodes on that hardware and basically do the similar kind of testing there and see what throughput we can get. We will have access to we'll give the community access to run a node as well. So anybody can get that access, run it on their laptop or computer, and help out with the testing phase there. So that should be at the end of the month. And we'll try and get some, an auditing company to join in with us there so that they can witness the event as well. And yeah, basically go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for that, Trevor. And thanks to everybody who tuned in. We wanted to give a very basic run through because we've had so many questions about how this can be demonstrated. We have had our testnet node running for over 2 years, but of course, not everybody either wants to or has the capacity to download that node and run it themselves. So we thought we'd give a very basic run through. This is going to help us get the attention of potentially some of the auditors when it comes to world records. And we're going to move everything towards that date at the end of this month, where we can do a live showcase in front of an audience and we can have auditors and perhaps world record representatives there so we can demonstrate to the world exactly what the Tectum blockchain can do. So appreciate all the attention that the community has been giving us. We appreciate all the support and it was great to have you all on today.